So the best way to capture the arm and just work on that is to use the magic wand, which is right up here. Zoom on into that. I'm holding down my left click. Notice it didn't do it perfect, so I'm going to come over to the edge, get it exactly where I need it. It went too far. I can hold the Alt button and bump it closer. And do the same thing up here. We can zoom even further in. The other thing you can do with this is set your spacing and your hardness, so you can get it even more like close to the edge of that. Use the Alt. Play with it till you get it just about right, so you don't have too much bleed over. So now we're just going to work on that arm. So let's start with high frequency, get our clone stamp, make it bigger, go ahead and make it 100%, why not? Let's make this a little smaller. Opacity is 100, flow is 100. Let's get some good smooth skin from over here. Control Z to undo that. We can pull skin even from right here. Notice we're not too worried about the color, we're worried about getting all that light and shadow to go away. It's going to be uneven. The color is just too uneven. Control Z to undo that, it got too close. Now I can start pulling from right over here. Click. I'm going to go back to over here. I'm getting too many lines. Now that's all with high frequency, which is your texture. Now let's go to low frequency and work on our color. Get our brush. I'm going to set the opacity at about 34%. The flow's at 37%. Make my brush smaller. And I'm going to use that color right there. And go up and down the arm until my color's nice and even. Use this color over here for the shadow. Get this color right in the middle. Get some dark for the edge. It's like painting. It really is. It's just like painting. You want your edge to be the most shadowed. Now, anywhere you see where you can't get it to clear up with the color, you're going to have to go back and use your clone brush. It becomes a textural issue at that point. And so let's go back and get our clone brush, our clone stamp rather. There we go. So now the clone's taken care of. Go back to low frequency for the color. Get our brush again. I'm going to use some of this color right here. I'm going to add some lightness right here. Use some of this color for my shadow. Going to get some of this color over here. Make it real even. And deselect that. Now the cool thing is we've done this on high and low frequency, but we've also done it in a group. We grouped that. The fun thing you can do with that is add a mask. That's right here. And so the mask is white. I put my brush on black, and it will undo. It will erase whatever I've done. So I'm going to set my opacity about 53% is fine. And I'm going to go along the edge and and get the actual edge of my arm back. Oh, let me Control Z that. In fact, let me go to my history. Start over right there. Add layer mask. Get my brush. Wow, you can see exactly how much pink's on that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go along the edge here. You can see exactly where the arm is. I'm taking it off right here. Right? That's where the arm was. Look how mottled that was. We did a lot of correcting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make that even smaller. I'm going to zoom in even more. I'm going to change my brush back to put it back on. And I'm going to put it back on right there at the edge. What? I don't know what just happened there. I bumped something. I'm going to hit X and put it back on right there. Bottom part of that arm looks good. And there's a pink cast to that arm. And I think what I would do, I'm not worried about the face right now. We already talked about how to do that face. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and compress all these layers. So I'm going to hit Shift Control E. That's flattened. Oh, sorry about that. I think what I'm going to do is make a color balance layer. I'm going to take some of the pink out. Notice it takes it out of the whole image. See, green is the opposite of the magenta. You go back to normal and you can see it. But I'm gonna go slide that over there, and then I'm gonna hit Control I to invert that mask. Notice it's black, so when I paint on it with a brush, it'll go away. So that pinkishness, you can take it off with that brush right there. Might want to set my opacity down a little bit lower. There we go. And I think what I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit, make that a little bigger. Take off some of that pink. There you go. Not bad. And so now we've got this edge. Personally, that kind of stuff bothers me, the fact that you can see that. So I'm going to hit Shift Control E and I'm going to compress my layers again. Then I'm going to hit Control J and make a new layer. I'm going to hit Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Change my radius to about 3. That looks good. Okay. Whole picture's blurred. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mask on this. I'm going to invert the mask. Now everything looks normal again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint blur on that arm. It's black. My brush is white. So I'm going to blur that. What you can do is you can hit the backslash button, the one that's right below your backspace, and you can see exactly where you're working. So you can see everything's red. So where I'm working, the red goes away. So you can see exactly where I'm applying the blur. You hit backspace again and it takes it off, or the backslash rather, right below the backspace, it takes it off. The other thing you can do is hit Alt and click on that and it shows you where you're working. See? Hold Alt, click that, and you can see, again, you can see exactly where you're working. Gonna blur that arm out pretty good. So many little things you can do to make it all work. Because nobody but you is looking at that arm. There you go, and you can compress those layers. Shift Control E to compress those. Arm looks pretty good. Now the other thing you can do, if you want to clean it up even more, you can get your clone stamp. You're just still working on the basic layer. Make it smaller. Set the opacity down to about 68%, 65% is good. Your brush, make it relatively small. Make the hardness about 20%. Hit your Alt button to select some area. And just trim out that arm. Keep zooming in and out because sometimes it's really hard to tell when you're looking at it if you've handled the problem. Now you can crop it, take care of your problem that way, but it's good to know other fixes. If for no other reason, then you don't want to have to. You don't want to have to rely on that. You want to be able to give them the composition that you wanted in the first place. So, there you go. Arm is fixed.